All right, let's jump right in. Today we're going to do a deep dive into a paper, and
Okay.
this one's called "A Time Series Analysis of My Girlfriend's Mood Swings."
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, and this was published in the Cranberry Lemon Journal of Astrological Big Data Ecology.
Wow, that's quite a combination.
Yeah, it's very specific.
Really specific.
So the author is Dr. Chad Broman,
Okay,
and I think we're going to have some fun with this one
I think so.
because his stated reason for doing this study was to maximize his playtime on the Final Fantasy VII Remake without upsetting his girlfriend, Tiffany.
That's an interesting goal, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
But, I think we can all relate.
Oh, absolutely. I think everyone's been there where they want to just have a little bit of me time
Right.
and avoid any conflict in a relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I think it's going to be fun to explore how he went about this and
Absolutely.
whether or not it was successful.
Yeah, and if this is even, a legitimate thing
Yeah.
or just someone having a little fun with data.
So let's start with a little bit of background on Chad and Tiffany.
Okay.
So they met at Cranberry Lemon University about 10 years ago,
Hmm.
and they've had this on-again, off-again relationship.
Oh, so a tumultuous relationship.
Yeah, and now they're living together.
Okay, so they're back on.
Yes. And Chad is a professor in the Department of Applied Psychological Machine Learning.
Oh, wow. So he actually has some background in this.
He does.
Okay.
And Tiffany is a freemium gaming marketing consultant.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I feel like maybe there's a little bit of competition there
A little bit.
in terms of like who's got the better gaming
So
skills.
time is more valuable, right?
Right.
If it's freemium, you're always working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the paper goes into quite a bit of detail about Tiffany,
Okay.
which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
It says that she loves Disney, prefers beaches over mountains.
Right.
Is a huge Game of Thrones fan
Yeah.
until the ending.
Yeah. Who
Wait,
wasn't
wait, wait.
disappointed by that ending?
Enjoys binge watching The Office and is very active on social media.
Okay, so kind of a typical millennial in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I was getting that sense.
Yeah.
So, he's really painting a picture of her.
Yeah. He's trying to give us context
Yes.
for what's to come.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how did he actually go about collecting this data?
Right, because that's the big question here. How do you quantify mood swings?
Well, he tracked her moods for over 2 years.
Oh, wow. So he's dedicated.
He was very dedicated to this project.
Okay.
And he used what he calls an empathetic pain scale.
An empathetic pain scale.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a real thing or if he just made it up.
Yeah. I mean, how do you
measure that?
yeah, quantify empathy?
Right.
Yeah.
But he also factored in the time and money that he lost due to her mood swings.
Oh, so there's a personal stake here. He's
Yeah.
trying to
Make up for lost time
yeah.
and potentially lost finances.
Right, so maybe he's framing it as a mood swing, but it's actually affecting him
It could be, yeah.
in a tangible way.
Yeah, like if her mood swing is preventing him from working on a grant proposal.
Right, or finishing his Final Fantasy game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he talks about, the challenges of cleaning the data.
Right, because it's not just about collecting it. It's
Right.
about interpreting it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he had to differentiate between her mood swings
Uh-huh.
and, external factors
Right.
like holidays, special occasions, or even breaking news.
Oh, so things that would affect anyone's mood.
Right.
Not just Tiffany.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And so to account for that, he developed what he calls the mood metric equivalent measurement.
Okay, so like a standardized measure
Yes.
for mood.
It's a very complicated acronym, MM.
Got it.
So-
On the M.
MM.
All right.
So yeah, he basically is trying to, create this baseline
Right.
for her mood and then measure the swings against that.
Okay.
Um,
So he's got all this data. He's trying to clean it. He's trying to standardize it.
Right.
What does he do next?
well, he uses 4 different models
Oh, wow.
to predict her mood swings.
Okay, so he's not putting all his eggs in one basket.
No, he's really trying to cover all his bases.
So what are these 4 models?
Well, the first one is the simplest. It's just a 7-day moving average.
Okay, so just looking at the past week of data.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then the second model is called sextuple exponential smoothing.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
It is.
What is that?
I'm not even going to try to explain that one.
Fair enough.
But it's basically just a more sophisticated statistical method.
Okay, so still within the realm of traditional statistics.
Yes.
Right.
And then he gets into the world of ARMA models,
ARM.
which stands for autoregressive moving average.
Okay,
And these are even more complex.
right.
And then finally, he tries a canned machine learning algorithm.
Oh, wow. So now he's bringing in the big guns.
Yeah.
What kind of algorithm?
It's called a long short-term memory,
Okay.
or LSTM.
LSTM.
Yeah.
Okay, I've heard of these.
So he's really going all out with this.
Yeah.
He's not messing around with these
Yeah.
models.
And he says, he wanted to use all these different approaches
Yeah.
to balance the risk and reward.
Okay, so what's the risk here? What's he worried about?
Well, I think the risk is that he gets it wrong.
No.
And then Tiffany's, upset with him
Makes sense?
for misinterpreting her moods.
Yeah.
And then the reward is obviously getting to play Final Fantasy VII.
Right. The reward is peace and quiet in video games.
Exactly.
Okay.
But he was particularly skeptical about the LSTM's effectiveness
Oh, why is that?
because he felt like he didn't have enough data.
Okay, so you need a lot of data to train those
Right, yeah.
algorithms effectively.
And he even writes that he felt like he was trying to teach a supercomputer to play chess
Okay.
with only a handful of pawns.
Wow, that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
So how does he actually test these models?
Well, a golden opportunity arose when his friend Matt,
Okay.
who had just gone through a divorce,
Oh,
needed a distraction.
So Chad saw this as the perfect excuse for a 3-day trip to New York.
Oh, so he leaves Tiffany behind
Yeah.
as an experiment.
Yes, it was like a boys' weekend.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And while he was gone, he used Tiffany's texts
Okay.
and spending habits as the truth data
The truth data. I like that.
to see how well his models had predicted her reactions.
Wow. So he's really putting this to the test.
He is.
Yeah.
And so the results were that the simpler models were more reliable,
Okay.
but the complex models were more detailed.
But not necessarily more accurate.
Right.
Okay.
The LSTM, as he predicted, did not do well.
It failed the test.
Yes.
Interesting.
But there's a twist.
There's always a twist.
He hints at something called the speedboat fiasco of 2018.
The speedboat fiasco.
Yeah.
What is this?
He doesn't go into details in this paper,
Okay.
but he mentions that he hopes to use his forecasting models to determine the optimal time to repurchase a speedboat.
Oh, so this is serious.
It is.
He wants to get back on the water
Yes.
with Tiffany.
And it turns out that this isn't his first attempt at applying data analysis to his relationship.
Oh, really?
He has other papers on topics like Valentine's Day expectations,
Yeah.
surviving a widespread panic concert as the designated driver,
Oh, boy.
and even modeling Tiffany's curvy personality with polynomials.
I'm sensing a theme here.
I am too.
Yeah. It
But
sounds like
are.
Chad might be the one who needs to be analyzed.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
All right, so,
Where do we go from here?
well, I think we need to dig into these other papers.
Absolutely. Let's find out more about the speedboat fiasco
Okay, let's go.
and this curvy personality.
Yes.
I need to know more about that.
All right, let's dive in.
Well, we managed to track down Chad's dissertation online, and
really?
the title is amazing.
Okay, what is it?
A play-by-play analysis of purchasing a luxury speedboat during an out-of-wedlock pregnancy scare.
Wow, so the speedboat fiasco of 2018
Yes.
involved a pregnancy scare
Apparently so.
and a play-by-play analysis. I mean, how detailed is this?
Very detailed. He breaks down the entire timeline of events
my goodness.
leading up to the purchase of the speedboat.
So what actually happened? Like, how did this all go down?
Well, it seems Chad decided to surprise Tiffany with the speedboat.
As a gift.
Yes, thinking it would be a grand romantic gesture.
Okay, but a speedboat, that's a pretty big gesture.
It is. And the timing, as you can imagine, was not ideal.
What do you mean?
Well, according to the dissertation, Tiffany was incredibly stressed at work.
Uh-huh.
She had just gotten a promotion,
Okay.
but was having some issues with her team.
All right.
And he even mentions cryptic phone calls from her mother.
Oh, the mother-in-law drama
Exactly.
always adds a layer of complication.
And to make matters worse, this all happened during what Chad refers to as the 2018 pregnancy scare.
Oh, boy.
Now, the dissertation doesn't confirm whether this was a legitimate concern or just a misunderstanding, but it's clear that the timing of the speedboat purchase did not help the situation.
So you have a stressed-out girlfriend, possible pregnancy scare, and then boom, a speedboat appears.
Pretty much.
I can only imagine how that went down.
It sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, so was this like a total surprise? Did she have no idea?
It seems that way. He doesn't really go into the logistics of the surprise.
Right.
But he does say that he wanted to alleviate Tiffany's stress with this grand gesture of love.
But maybe a speedboat wasn't the answer to her problems.
Probably not. He may have missed some crucial emotional cues there.
Yeah, I think a speedboat is rarely the answer
Agreed.
to any problem.
Right.
But it's hard to fault him for trying, right?
I mean, his intentions were good, even if the execution was a bit off.
Yeah, maybe he just really wanted a speedboat.
That's possible, too. We don't really know Tiffany's side of the story,
Mhm.
so it's hard to say for sure. But
Yeah.
this does make you wonder if this was more about Chad's desires than Tiffany's.
Okay, so we've got the speedboat fiasco of 2018 explained.
Yes.
But what about the other papers?
Right. We still have a lot to uncover.
He wrote about Valentine's Day expectations, surviving a widespread panic concert,
Yes.
and even modeling Tiffany's personality.
Where do we even begin with that?
Let's start with Valentine's Day,
Oh,
because
okay.
that seems like a pretty universal relationship challenge.
All right, so what did Chad do for Valentine's Day?
Well, the paper is called Why is Valentine's Day So Important? A time analysis of Tiffany's relationship expectations.
Okay, so he's really analyzing her expectations.
Yeah, and he goes into detail about how her expectations have evolved over time.
So he's been tracking this for a while.
Yeah, it seems like he's been collecting data on her reactions to gifts and date nights for years.
Wow, he's really created a Valentine's Day algorithm for his girlfriend.
He has.
That's both impressive and a little bit terrifying.
It is a little bit creepy.
Yeah.
But, he even mentions using historical data
Okay.
to predict the optimal gift and date night strategy.
So he's trying to optimize for maximum relationship satisfaction.
Exactly. But what if Tiffany just wants him to be spontaneous and thoughtful?
Right. What if she doesn't want an algorithm for romance?
Exactly.
And I think that's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the most romantic gesture would be to just ditch the data
Right.
and listen to what she actually wants.
Yeah, it seems like he's more focused on avoiding negative feedback than on actually understanding her needs and desires.
Exactly. So it's like he's trying to game the system of romance.
Yeah, and that's not really what romance is about, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay, so we've got speedboats, we've got Valentine's Day. Now, what about this widespread panic concert?
Oh, boy.
What happened there?
Well, the title of this paper is a mouthful.
Okay, I'm ready for it.
The Jam Band Conjecture, a longitudinal study of a romantic partner's tolerance for extended jam sessions.
Wow, that is a mouthful.
It is?
So he took Tiffany to a widespread panic concert?
He did, and he was the designated driver.
Oh, no.
So he sat through 5 hours
5 hours.
of widespread panic.
I mean, I like jam bands, but 5 hours is a long time.
It is a long time, and he was sober.
Oh, man. That's a test of any relationship.
It is, and the whole time he's collecting data on her reactions to the music.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
So what did he find?
Well, he hypothesizes that Tiffany's tolerance for jam bands fluctuates
Okay.
based on her menstrual cycle.
He's tracking her menstrual cycle.
He also thinks it's related to the phases of the moon
The phases of the moon.
and the success of her favorite sports teams.
Wow, he's really grasping at straws here, isn't he?
I think so.
I mean, that's a lot of variables to consider.
It is, and it seems a little intrusive to be tracking her menstrual cycle.
Yeah, I mean, that's getting into some personal territory.
Right, like no matter how much you love someone,
Yeah.
some things should just be private.
Exactly.
But, he claims to have found some weak correlations
Oh,
between her tolerance for jam bands and these other factors.
but based on a limited data set, I'm guessing?
Yes, very limited.
Okay.
And he even admits in the paper that the analysis is more for entertainment purposes.
So even he knows this is a bit absurd.
I think he does, yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about speedboats, Valentine's Day jam bands now for the grand finale,
Yes, the polynomial personality.
the curvy personality,
Yes.
modeled with polynomials. I still can't wrap my head around this one.
I know it's a lot to unpack, but basically he's arguing that Tiffany's personality
Okay.
can be represented by a series of curves and equations.
He's reducing her entire personality to a math problem.
He is.
That's a bit dehumanizing, isn't it?
It is, and he even graphs these polynomials
Okay.
to create a visual representation of her emotional landscape.
So he's like mapping her emotions
He is.
in a mathematical sense.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah.
But it does raise some ethical concerns.
It does.
Like, did Tiffany consent to all of this?
Right, we haven't heard her side of the story at all.
That makes you wonder if she'd be comfortable with him
Yeah.
analyzing her in this
It's
way.
roles were reversed.
Right. What if she was doing this to him?
Exactly.
I don't think he would be too happy about it.
Probably not. Where do we go from here?
Well, I think we need to take a step back
Okay.
and consider the possibility that maybe Chad is the problem.
Okay, so you're saying maybe Tiffany's not the one with the mood swings.
I am. Maybe she's perfectly rational and it's his overanalyzing.
That's creating the drama.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, I like where you're going with this.
Yeah, because,
Yeah.
we've been looking at all of this from Chad's perspective.
Right.
But what if we're misinterpreting the situation?
What if Tiffany's reactions are completely justified given Chad's behavior?
Yes. So maybe this speedboat fiasco
Hmm.
is just the tip of the iceberg.
Okay, so you're saying there might be a pattern of behavior here
I think there might be.
that we haven't fully grasped yet.
Yes.
All right, I'm intrigued. Let's dig a little deeper.
So, we've been talking about all this data
Yeah?
and these models,
Yeah.
but I'm starting to wonder if maybe
Yeah.
we're missing something.
What do you mean?
Well, what if Tiffany's reactions are totally normal?
Okay.
Like, what if she's not actually having mood swings?
You're saying she's just reacting
Right.
to Chad's behavior.
Yes. Like, think about it.
Okay.
You're stressed out at work.
Yeah.
You might be pregnant.
Uh-huh.
And then your partner surprises you with a speedboat.
Yeah. That's going to throw anyone off.
Right.
I mean, that's a lot to process.
Exactly.
Really?
And it's not just the speedboat.
Right.
He's analyzing her Valentine's Day expectations,
Yeah.
her tolerance for jam bands,
Uh-huh.
her video game preferences.
It's like he's trying to control her.
Right.
With all this data.
And maybe she just wants him to be present.
Yeah.
Like, actually listen to her.
Instead of trying to predict her every move.
Exactly.
So maybe we've been too focused on the data.
Yeah.
And not enough on the human element.
Right. Like, what's actually going on in this relationship?
Yeah, because it seems like Chad is creating more problems
I think so.
than he's solving.
With all this analysis.
So what can we learn from all of this?
Well, I think it's a good reminder that data can be misleading.
Especially when it comes to relationships.
Right. Because emotions are complex.
Yeah,
And you can't always quantify them.
exactly. And sometimes the best way to understand someone is to just talk to them,
Exactly.
not analyze their data.
And to respect their boundaries.
Yes.
Like, maybe don't track your partner's menstrual cycle.
Unless they specifically ask you to for
Yeah.
medical reasons or something.
Yeah. So I think the takeaway here is that communication is key.
Always.
And empathy.
Yes.
And maybe a little bit less data analysis.
I think that's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah. So this has been a fascinating deep dive.
It has. We've covered a lot of ground.
We have from speedboats to polynomials.
And everything in between.
And I think it's safe to say that
Yeah.
we've all learned a lot.
Hopefully Chad has too.
I hope so.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for today.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll be back next time
Sounds good.
with another deep dive.